Greetings again, Peter Chernoff here, and I'm in San Francisco City Hall, 4th floor. The police commissioner's meeting hasn't started yet, and since everybody was waiting outside, we were handing out the flyer that I put together today. The title is An Invitation to Impact, which of course we're going to be going to a journalist media center later on in Marin County to hand these out. And so we're going through the halls here, and we came across Daya, who is a journalist and a photographer. And when she said that she told us she was a journalist, well, bells always go off for me, and I thought, well, let me give one to her. So we just want to give this to you to let you know what we're giving to the police chief, the police commissioners meeting. That my name is Peter. I'm from up in Sonoma County. And so just quickly what this is about is, it's about this topic right here. The title is The Biggest Untouchable Organized Pedophile Plan Set to Crash. Okay? And I've worked with several investigators. One of them's here, Doug Millar, and Doug was sent to me almost 18 years ago from the former chief of Los Angeles FBI, Ted Gunderson. And so this particular guy right here, Maurice Wolin, has been in court for 3 years. And he keeps getting out of trouble because of his connections. And so I have made public all those connections. I've made public this guy's been involved in child murders all throughout the 80s. I made public who he's associated with. And I've made public that how come is it that he only gets a $20,000 bail and anybody else that allegedly gets involved or caught in what he does gets a reasonably higher bail situation. So he was supposed to get probation on February 26th. So what I did on the 24th, as you see the date here, I sent a certified registered letter to Judge Arthur Wick, along with a 6-hour interview of me by Ted Gunderson of the FBI, along with several other letters that sort of back up what we're talking about. Doug Millar, our other investigator, was there, and all of a sudden they suspended the sentencing and gave it another 4 weeks. Personally, I thought the guy was going to get put into jail like immediately with what was written, but all they did was suspend things. So flip it on the back just for a second, and then I'd like your response on this. So this is Dr. Maurice Wolin. This guy's been involved in fact, I'm going to give you another flyer. He's been involved in pharmaceuticals. He's on a pharmaceutical board. He's lost his license with that. He's lost his medical license. But he's also associated with Dr. William Ayers. And if you Googled him, you'll find out this guy is the chief psychiatrist of Children's Services in Contra Costa, who's also been in court for raping kids for the last 40 years. And he's not getting any trouble because he's got the money and the clout and the lawyers to keep him dancing in and out of court without actually getting into trouble. These are people that are associated with MK Ultra mind control programs, which originated in Nazi Germany. So Dr. Wolin is associated to this guy who's in the courts right now. He's associated to Daryl McNeil up in Mendocino County. Okay, 2 more things. This gentleman killed Daryl McNeil. Why? Because Aaron Vargas was being raped by this Daryl McNeil ever since he was 11 years old. And then what happened was he tried to get away from this guy. He was abused by him for about 15 years. He leaves the area, he meets a young lady, and they fall in love. He has a baby. He's off at work, and all of a sudden he's finding out that Daryl McNeil is showing up at his girlfriend's house to babysit his kid. So he kind of loses it. He shows up at Daryl McNeil's house. Daryl McNeil, who's a friend of Dr. Maurice Wolin, I have seen them together. So he shows up at this guy's house, and in front of his wife, he explains that you're not going to harm any more children again. And he shoots him dead. He stays there. He does not let the wife call the emergency because it took half an hour for him to die. But what happened, what was interesting is, in the aftermath, and he's been in jail over a year now, is that about 30 to 40 young men have come forward to say this guy McNeil abused them all their lives. Okay, one of them even went to law enforcement in 2001. They did nothing, and now the entire town of Fort Bragg, including the wife of Daryl McNeil, they all want Aaron Vargas out of jail. Okay, And the last part is, Gary Timmons is also a friend of his. He's a Catholic priest out of Sonoma County that's been in prison some time for doing this sort of thing. So what do you think about this topic? I'm sorry I talked so much.
I was just curious how you knew all this information.
I know all this information because I used to be involved in the business.
What business?
In the business of the very worst of what I just got done telling you. And what happened is in 2003, I was in the jail for 5 months. I've done about 2.5 years of jail time in 1 to 7 month increments, usually for giving speeches. And during this 5-month stay, I fasted 140 out of 150 days. And I had a lot of memory breakthrough recalls. And I recalled so much stuff in detail, things that I did not know prior to 2003. And a lot of this recall had to do with these topics that I had no knowledge of in this persona before 2003. So I have been dealt with in the realm of MK Ultra mind control programs ever since I was a child. I've been utilized for child sex, for child pornography, the whole 9 yards ever since I was a kid, going all the way up until my 20s. Okay, but I had no, that's called multiple personalities or dissociative disorders. And so when I found this out, I promise you, it was not an amusing thought. It was not an amusing memory. But yet at the same time, I was able to put things together and solve a number of crimes which have impacted some of the local communities, and yet there's so much resistance because of corruption and blackmail at the very top end of things that a lot of people, they're just amazed to see that no one is being put into prison or jail, especially this guy whose connections include the former police chief of Santa Rosa, Sal Rosano. They include Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino, the man who has got top security clearance with military intelligence. He's involved in the national security arena. And he was named by many children in the 1988 daycare abuse at the Presidio. And he's also been named around the country in a variety of things. So it goes on and on. So now you've asked me about how do I know. I've told you. Now, what do you think about the topic in general? Do you have any knowledge of this or feelings, or have you observed that a lot of these big child molesters never seem to get into jail or trouble? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I don't.
First of all, tell us who you are.
I'm Dea.
Can you tell us one or two of the rags that you put information towards?
I write for Mission Local.
Mission Local?
Yeah, you read Mission Local?
I have not, but I'd like a copy if you have one.
No, it's online. It's
oh, it is?
Oh, good.
Online website.
Mission Local, we will look it up.
Yeah. I've heard of, I didn't know about any of this stuff, but I had heard of MK Ultra, I think, through Naomi Klein's book.
Okay.
The Shock Doctor.
I have that book.
She talks about that, right?
I don't recall. I don't think I've read the whole book. I do a lot of reading, but I didn't read it. I do have the book.
Yeah.
But anybody can Google MK Ultra. But please continue.
Right. No. So she talks about that as being something that was done in order. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it's in the beginning of the book. So yeah, I'm good. I don't
Okay.
really want to
Okay, but are you willing to, if we put the video on YouTube, are you willing to be?
Right, but just not with me talking, because I
Okay.
can just ask a question or something.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I don't really have